signal now for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them.
Yes, sir. Welcome to Beyond the Bat Signal. I am your host, Dominic Yanika. Join me as we dive into the depths of Batman's lore, dissecting the Rogues Gallery, and uncovering the stories of our iconic vigilante known as the Dark Knight. Today, we have a fun episode. I'm fresh off beating Batman Arkham Shadow. This is going to be another Arkham discussion. But before that, I have to thank each of you listeners for tuning in. New listeners, thank you so much for, again, joining us, giving the time, giving this podcast a chance, and listening to me. It's wild to even think about that. My voice is in your car, in your ear, But with that being said, for those of you that are listening, if you can please take 30 seconds out of your day and rate and review the show. It really does go a long way and helps spread the word, and it actually promotes the show. We got fun episodes coming up. I know lately we've been doing the review shows with Batman Hush and Batman The Last Halloween, and there's actually going to be another one that's going to celebrate Batman Begins the 20th anniversary, which is wild to me. That 20 years has passed, and I have a former guest on this show who's going to join me, and we're in the midst of watching or rewatching Batman Begins, and man, like what a movie that was, and how it really set the tone for movies in the future. So wild how that was just like an underdog, not so well known, and then all of a sudden it's like the Dark Knight kind of just takes the world by storm, really. Now, I was just talking about reviews, and I wanted to highlight someone who left a review, and I apologize, but I did want to read this one out loud. This is from Batgirl_fan, and I'm assuming it's a she. She says, "This is an awesome podcast for anyone who loves Batman and cool storytelling. Dominic really knows his stuff and breaks things down in a way that's fun and easy to follow." Wow, thank you. His tone and storytelling keeps you captivated and wanting to know more. Every episode feels like a conversation with a friend who's excited and passionate about what they're talking about, whether he's diving into deep Batman lore or connecting to a bigger idea. If you're into comics, movies, and television series, or good discussions, this is definitely worth a listen. Batgirl fan, thank you very much for dropping a 5-star review. Wow, what a compliment. Really appreciate you taking the time to just write something down and just just appreciate it. And I hope you like what we're sending out. I know that things are going to get a little busy for me, so I'm really trying to ramp things up, and I hope that these episodes keep you guys entertained, informed, and man, I love talking Batman. I love listening about Batman. Like, I'm not just someone that makes podcasts, but I listen to Batman podcasts. And I'm sure if you've listened to me, I'm pretty familiar with guys like over at BOF, Pete Vera, Ryan Lauer, Bill Jet Ramey. And then I even go on to the Comic Binge on a YouTube. I think there's one that says it's Sheehan Comics or Sheehan is Dead Comics. I can't remember, but the gentleman over there, he's got some fantastic guests. Highly recommend that you guys go tune in. And there is another one, the Bat Pod Network. Now, that one's another one where they're constantly reviewing Batman comics, whether it's current or even past. Like right now they got one where it's the Nightfall Saga, and I'm having a lot of fun listening to that one. Those are some podcasts I recommend, and I'll even throw another one out there. DC High Volume Batman. Poof, take a listen to that one because that's a lot of fun. But with that being said, what's today's episode going to be about? Well, it's going to be about Batman Arkham games. Hell yeah. And not just about that, but it's going to be about the top 5 Batman Arkham villains that should be in the next Arkham game following Batman Arkham Shadow. So the premise of this, we're fresh off Batman Arkham Shadow. Phenomenal game. I'm going to say this again because I really do believe it. Batman Arkham Shadow, VR game that I was skeptical about, and after playing it, it is worth the price of purchase. It is a lot of fun. It's a legit Arkham video game that pushes the story forward, and honestly, you won't regret playing this game. I think that you'll love it. There's so much replayability to it too. And the guys over at Camouflage really put their heart and soul into it. And you can just tell by the small little details, which, in all honesty, they looked at all Arkham games and inputted, because they really had to do their homework and kind of follow that backstory and make sure everything was correct. And you got to admire that. So going forward, rather than doing a new villain for the next, who knows if Batman Arkham Knight, Rocksteady's going to make a follow-up to Batman Arkham Knight. I'm not sure. But if it was me, I'd be doing the follow-up to Arkham Origins, because there's so much more meat and backstory to it that's what I'd like to follow through. And this is what I'm recommending as top 5 villains. I'm really curious. Feel free to write in or message me on X/Twitter at Beyond Bat Signal as to who your favorite Bat villains would be to be in the next game. Or you can email me at beyondthebatsignal@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And definitely will throw out your suggestions out on the podcast. Now, with that being said, let's start off with number 5. So I think a villain that doesn't get enough exposure, but someone that's, I think, quietly popular with the fans. He's not an A-list villain by any means, but arguably, is he a C-list villain? Maybe. He's like cusp of C-list villain to B-list, but with more exposure, who knows? And the way that Arkham Shadow laid the groundwork for this villain and created an origin for him, I thought was brilliantly done. And I'm talking about none other than Arnold Wesker, the ventriloquist, and Scarface. He had a tragic, unsettling story. He had a cell right next to Matches Malone / Bruce Wayne. And, you kind of see how his story unfolds slowly but surely. And he's visiting Dr. Quinzel at the time, and she obviously cares about this patient, and he's going through a difficult time, and it gets to the point where you're near the end of the game, and it's a crime scene, and Arnold Wesker kills his cellmate, and the guy's dead. There's blood on the floor, and then all of a sudden you have Dr. Jonathan Crane, who eventually becomes Scarecrow, is basically testing him out with his little creation called Shadow, which is like a fear toxin, and trying to really get the worst out of these individuals and find out what it is that's in their shadows. And Arnold Wesker just takes a mighty evil turn. And really, I think the one thing with Crane is he brings out the worst in people and really he was a foundational character that brought out the worst in a lot of these villains. He created some of these villains. Arnold Wesker was one of them. And, he's a tragic villain by all means. And he's someone that is controlled by a violent puppet. And, what he does through the comics, he is not a good person by any means. He's a really, really evil man. And, there's a lot I'm not saying that he should be a main villain by any means, but a side mission would be incredibly fascinating to kind of explore that psychological manipulation slash noir style, and could even tie into like, I don't know. I think that, uncovering these quiet murders as to like, okay, these mysterious murders as to what's going on. And you can create a lot of story with someone like the ventriloquist. And, there is some familiarity with Matches Malone, and you can tie in with the groundwork that Arkham Shadow left to the next Arkham game. And I think Ventriloquist would be a top 5 villain. And it's not like we've seen this in video games. Like, we've seen Easter eggs of him, but to really be exposed to him and have a key mission, I think would be awesome to explore, something unique. And there's a lot of good story that you can tell with this individual. So that's my number 5 for, I'd say, top 5 villains for Arkham. Up next is someone that was more of a friend than a foe to Batman and Bruce Wayne throughout the Arkham games. But we've never seen her as a true villain. And I'd love to explore that. And I'm talking about none other than Selina Kyle / Catwoman, and uncovering her origin story. And big picture here, I'm hoping that this is more of a noir style Batman video game, making it feel like The Long Halloween. And I think that Selina Kyle plays such an important role in the Batman mythos. And to have her as part of the video game and her being a villain would be very, very intriguing. Especially with the story that you can tell. I think that having Catwoman as part of it would be a lot of fun. She is one of the most beloved characters, and just trying to see where she came from, and maybe it's like how she's more of eventually turns into more of a friend to Batman than a foe. But I'd definitely like to see, because I feel like there's so many female characters that are now anti-heroes. Harley Quinn's one of them. It seems like Poison Ivy's turning, and I don't know. I just want to see more villainous female characters. And Catwoman is an excellent one to do that. And I think having her, even if she's not a villain for the entire game, but having her for a part of the game would be a lot of fun to kind of explore. And her backstory and the backstory between her and Batman, it just seems like such a unique but fun, and there's so much chemistry between those two, and the dynamic between them two is their fighting style would be a lot of fun as part of a boss fight, whether it's through VR or we're looking at a PlayStation slash Xbox game. I don't know, but I got Catwoman pegged at number 4, and I think that she should definitely be part of the next Arkham game. I love how they're exploring the origins about many of them, i.e., you have Dick Grayson. They created his own little origin story and how he starts up with Batman. And speaking of Dick Grayson, this is where I'm like, okay, this is going to lead into number 3. And I don't know if this is premature, but Dick Grayson has been introduced to the Arkham mythos, and whether it's a small side mission like Hush, that's what I'm talking about, but I'd love to see this villain in the game, and I'm talking about Tony Zuko. I think that he would have an interesting element, especially for the Bat family, and having Tony Zuko and interact with Robin, and Robin, finding his own 2 feet, his origin story, and trying to track down who the heck killed his parents. Would be a lot of fun. There's a lot of story to explore when it comes to Batman Dark Victory, or you even have Robin's Reckoning from Batman the Animated Series. There's a few good stories to draw from. And then obviously you have the comics, right? There's a lot that you can just integrate I know the Arkhamverse likes to do things slightly different, and rightfully so. Rewrite some stories, make it maybe their own vision, and I'm all for it. But Tony Zuko, if it's a small mission that can kind of carry over into the following video game, I think would be a lot of fun, especially for those of you that are Robin fans, and then it kind of helps Batman train. Like, who knows if there can be a mission where you're helping to train Robin going out. I don't know. And now, listen, this is someone that likes solo Batman. Okay, I love solo Batman. Incorporating the Bat family a little bit doesn't hurt either. The way they did it in Arkham Knight, where you had Batman tag teaming with Nightwing, I thought was pretty cool, and I'm all for it. And I kind of like if they would introduce that dynamic into this video game. Curious about your thoughts on that one, because that to me would be my wild card. Number 2. This one I'm kind of like flip-flopping. It's just, again, these are villains I'd love to see introduced some way. And I've mentioned this before. Huge fan of Andrea Beaumont and the Mask of the Phantasm. And I think having Andrea Beaumont as the Phantasm would be an incredible addition. And watching how the growth of Bruce Wayne, and maybe sparking a love interest where he has throughout the game. I'm not talking about making this game a dramatic thing, but even if it is, like, it seems like they have had their relationship. It seems like she's run off and gone with her father. Again, kind of follows the story with the Mask of the Phantasm. But her coming back as the Phantasm, to me, would be like, this is number 2. So her, and in tandem with the number 1, would, I think, be an incredible influence on the video game. And would throw a nice little curveball to many fans that have never probably seen the movie, but would just play the video games. But, you got these Easter eggs, both in Origins and in Shadow, where, there's either a postcard left by Andrea and then a voice message that was left by her. And she just comes back as the Dark Angel of Death, and she comes back as Phantasm, and kind of is taking out a lot of the mob bosses. Who knows? And with her, this is where I kind of get a little messy, and this is a wish list. How it's going to flow, I have no idea. But having her as someone that's also taking out the mob bosses, Batman's obviously not going to want that. He doesn't believe in killing. But having her as one of the villains would be really, really intriguing to me, and rewriting it. I love the look of the Phantasm, and I think that the Phantasm can add a lot of unique story. Having Bane, you look at Bane and the backstory behind him and the way they did it in Origins, and him as a villain, so intriguing. He was so powerful, especially in Origins, the way the look of him. He basically would not be. He was motivated just by destroying Batman. Strictly, he was not motivated by money by any means. He just wanted to kill and destroy the Bat and break him. And, even to the point where he went into the Batcave, tracked him down, and, nearly just killed Alfred. And, having someone as psychologically harming like the Phantasm, someone that the one that got away of Andrea, we're slowly seeing growth in Bruce Wayne and in Batman, and I think that this would be another, I guess, growth of the character, and something that I would definitely love to see Arkham explore in these video games. And I think you talk about type of villains. I wouldn't say that they're an A-list villain by any means, only because she's only really appeared a couple of times. Definitely not in the class of Joker definitely not in a B class, but someone that I feel like deserves their due. And it's a lot of fun. Again, another Paul Dini creation. And just, I don't know. I'm all for it. I think it's a Paul Dini creation, by the way. I gotta revisit that. But anyway, Phantasm, number 2. Now let's get ready for number 1. Now, last but not least, we have, and I'm going to pair this up with a couple of people and making it the Holiday Killer. And yes, I want an overarching long Halloween story. We're still early on in Batman's career. And I think having a mystery and having this story take place over a year of Batman's career, I don't know. And you can introduce multiple villains in this. I don't know. But I think having the Holiday Killer and one of the main characters that constantly pops up in the Batman Arkham video games is Calendar Man. And give this guy his due. He's got to do something. And I feel like either A, making him the Holiday Killer, but that'd be too obvious, or B, making him one of the Holiday Killers. And like, do you actually make Gilda Dent and Two-Face as one of the suspects? I don't know, but you notice at the end of Arkham Shadow that Harvey Dent has turned into Two-Face almost fully, and I don't know, man. Or do you do where it's like there's a Holiday Killer, Calendar Man is obviously maybe one of them. He can either taunt from prison as well, which might be a little different, or you have something slightly different. And I feel like this group has been in the story a lot, but what if you made the Holiday Killer or killers part of the Court of Owls, and they're the one who hired this Holiday Killer to execute as part of the court's plan, and making the Court of Owls a bigger part of this story, maybe even multiple stories. And I don't know. And like, you still have Carmine Falcone, you have his son Alberto, like, making someone else the Holiday Killer, but maybe they're hired through Carmine, but maybe they're also hired through the Court of Owls. Really curious what you guys think of this. And then it kind of carries over into having another big storyline with Batman and the Court of Owls, which is, again, just an amazing story written by Scott Snyder. Oh my God, I almost forgot. And, talk about what a banger of a first story that he released. And, yes, we just got Gotham Knights, which was a lot about the Court of Owls, but man, it's not an Arkham game, and I think that they can really address this and do it the right way. And having a Holiday Killer as one of the main villains, including having the Phantasm as well, would be something unique. Again, we can have Joker sprinkled in here. We get a lot of Joker, but I just feel like people are tired of having Joker constantly pop up. Obviously, we get excited when we hear him, we see him. Even something, just hearing his voice in Arkham Shadow, I was like, oh man, this is perfect. I love it. But, Joker can be saved for another game. And I'm looking directly at having, maybe Dick Grayson is eventually grown up, and you got Jason Todd, and then there's that whole storyline of Joker beating the crap out of Jason Todd in a future video game. But for this one, maybe you have the Court of Owls being an integral part of this whole storyline. I don't know. Kind of curious what you guys think. That's my number 1, having the Holiday Killer / Calendar Man, and maybe the Holiday Killer is half Calendar Man, half Alberto Falcone, and who's the overarching villain? Maybe you got the Court of Owls. I'm all for it. I love it. But with that being said, that's my top 5. Kind of curious what you guys think as to who your top 5 is. I do have some honorable mentions. I'm just mentioning people or villains that I haven't seen in the game yet or that I feel like need their due. But other ones that maybe deserve a little bit more time. And Black Mask, I kind of feel like we were ripped off, and I was so excited to have Black Mask as part of the Arkham Origins. Don't get me wrong, I love that Joker was integrated into that game, and he was excellent, and I loved their backstory, but having Black Mask as one of the villains would be an honorable mention. I'd love to have part of it. Professor Pig, he's disturbing, he's grotesque, he's got a look that you're just like, man, you are brutal, and I don't know. He just provides that horror aspect and psychological aspect that would, be good for stealth missions. But it would be a really good side mission to have Professor Pig turn into his just going after him and through. Maybe you're going through a crime scene and analyzing it and seeing blood splatter everywhere. And the guy's just ruthless. Another one might be Anarchy. We don't get a lot of them we don't get them at all, actually, after Origins. And, we met him, and then he just kind of vanished without a trace. You kind of hear some voiceovers and discussion amongst villains on the streets talking about it. But, having Anarchy and his whole anti-establishment ideology back for a video game and having him as part of a side mission would be really intriguing. And I'm all for Killer Moth being part of this. And as a side mission, again, he's someone that could be reimagined in a darker way. Because, I feel like he's more in a lighter tone. But he could be something... a villain that's introduced. But I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you guys think. These are my top villains for an Arkham game. But with all of these villains, Batman is so rich with villains and it's crowded. Who do you want to see? I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Are we due for Phantasm to come back? Is it Professor Pig? Court of Owls? Calendar Man? Does this guy become a main villain in some way? Or just AKA the Holiday Killer? Maybe Catwoman is a villain? I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Let me know. Hit me up. Beyond Bat Signal is the Twitter handle. And feel free to shoot me an email at beyondthebatsignal@gmail.com. And we'll spotlight your picks in the next episode. Now, with that being said... thank you all for tuning in. I just dropped my plugs, and that's it for me. Really appreciate you guys listening. I hope each of you are enjoying the start of summer, finally. And that's it. So, this is Beyond the Bat Signal, and we are signing off.